Did you know it's possible for a plant to completely change your life? I know that sounds pretty dramatic, but it's actually true. This is lemon balm. And lemon balm, also known as Melissa officinalis, the official name, lemon balm saved me after years of chronic health problems. And today I want to tell you a little bit of my own story and about this little plant that changed my life. When I was 5 years old, I was on a family vacation, and I remember feeling really sick and my parents noticing a strange rash on my ankle. And at the time, they thought it was a spider bite. It was the 80s, and people didn't really know about tick-borne illnesses back then. And it had a bullseye rash, and I had a fever, and my little joints hurt, and I can remember my grandmother and my mom and my aunt laying cool rags on my head to bring the fever down, and we were on vacation, and they made a call to the pediatrician back home, who assured them it was probably just a spider bite, to give me some Tylenol and I would be just fine. And the rash went away, and I got better, and life kept moving. And things seemed fine. But over the course of my childhood, I kept getting sick. If there was anybody in my class at school that had strep throat, you could guarantee that I was going to get it. If a stomach bug went around, Amber was going to catch it. I was just a really sick kid. I constantly was sick. And then in high school, I started to develop some really weird health symptoms. I had a lot of trouble with my hormones, and I developed polycystic ovaries and endometriosis, and kind of got on this roller coaster ride of doctor appointments. I had my first surgery at 18, and it was exploratory. They were trying to figure out what was going on, what was causing all this crazy pain. That surgery really didn't give us any answers other than my ovaries were covered in cysts. And so we just kept moving. Fast forward a bit, I got older, I got married, and I realized that infertility was going to be a huge part of my story. Because of the PCOS, because of the hormone problems, I couldn't get pregnant. And a doctor looked me in the eye and just said, listen, I don't want to give you false hope today. You're never going to be able to have a baby. You're just not going to be able to conceive. You're not going to be able to get pregnant. And it was devastating. And I was engaged at the time to Josh, and I can remember I sat down with him that night. We went on a date, and I told him, I was like, this is your out. I know you want to have kids. I know it's a big deal to you. And so if you want out, I get it. And he laughed at me, and he was like, of course I don't want out. Of course I don't want out. He was like, we'll adopt, we'll find kids, but I want you. And so we got married, and just a few months after we got married, I experienced a miscarriage. And I didn't even know I had been pregnant until the miscarriage happened, which was probably even more devastating because I thought I couldn't be a mom. And then suddenly I realized I had been for a brief moment, and I didn't even get to enjoy it. And I thought I'd never have that again. And it was so devastating. And suddenly, the only thing I wanted in the world was the baby that I couldn't have. And so we started this journey of trying to get pregnant. I promise I'm going to bring you back to lemon balm in a minute. Stick with me. So we go on this journey to try to get pregnant, fertility treatment specialist, and we do. We have a beautiful little baby girl, and she's a total miracle. And the doctor said, well, if you want to have any more children, you should do it now because, your body worked one time, maybe we can do it again. And so we immediately started on fertility treatments again when she was just a couple of months old. But this time it didn't work so well. It wasn't quite so simple. And we had another loss. We lost another baby during that time. And through a whole series of problems and circumstances, eventually God blessed us and we had a second child. And during that pregnancy, my body wanted so badly to get rid of the pregnancy. It did not like being pregnant. I went into labor at 23 weeks and spent the rest of my pregnancy in and out of the hospital on total bed rest. We made it to 32 weeks, and he was born a couple months early. He's my big, strong, healthy walker you guys have met today, though. God was so good to us and gave us such miracles in that season. But my health was still struggling. And after Walker was born, things got worse than they had ever been. I had put my body through some really tough stuff it didn't want to do, and now it was mad, and it was going to fight back. And so when Walker was 4 months old, I had to have an emergency hysterectomy. And that led to going into complete menopause at 24 years old, which was crazy. And so after that season, I had the hysterectomy and my health started to get worse. I started gaining all this weight. I was in menopause. I didn't feel well. And then I developed arthritis in my late 20s. I had a doctor look at me and say, you have early onset rheumatoid arthritis. And he was like, this will cripple you by the time you're in your 50s. And I just refused to accept that. I was like, why is all this bad stuff happening to me? Like, if there's a weird diagnosis, I'm going to get it. Well, I continued to fight, going to different rheumatologists, trying different medicines. Nothing was working. And then the worst happened. I started getting shingles. Now, shingles, if you have never experienced it, it's probably the closest thing to hell on earth. It's horrible pain. It's like a fire that can't be quenched, and it doesn't stop. Nothing touches it. Nothing. Prescription pain meds, shingles laughs at that. And I didn't just get shingles once. I've had shingles over 10 times. And it always comes up in the very same spot. It's a large area, and every time I would get shingles, my life would come to a screeching halt. This happened for the first time in my late 20s, around the time I developed that autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis. And in my 30s, things just kept getting worse. I developed more hormone issues. They started testing me for things like Cushing's disease and talking about scary things like adrenal tumors. Then my joints got so much worse. I gained over 100 pounds. My joints were so swollen. I was almost losing my ability to walk. I couldn't hardly drive anymore. And I was like, how in my 30s am I this sick, you know? And so there came a point where I was really honestly willing to try anything. I had done everything the doctors had told me to do. I had seen dozens of doctors, and I just kept getting sicker. And at this point, I was on 13 prescription medications, and I was in my 30s. And I was like, this isn't working. I'm getting sicker despite all these medicines. Like, I've got to do something different. So I took a risk, and I went to see a naturopath. And he specializes in herbs and homeopathy. And so when I went, he was like, you obviously have like some sort of underlying root cause to all of these problems over the years. You know, from shingles to rheumatoid arthritis to I'd had kidney stones. My gallbladder had gone bad. I'd had multiple surgeries, just weird things. My adenoids, my tonsils. Like, I was out of spare parts they could remove at this point, and I was still sick. And so he said, let's do a bioenergetic scan. And so a bioenergetic scan looks for the frequencies of specific viruses and bacteria that could be hiding in your body. So I went for my first scan, and I'll be so honest, I was real skeptical. Nothing had helped to this point, and I really didn't think this was going to help either, but I was just willing to try, you know, and at this point I figured, what do I have to lose? And so at that appointment, he listened to me. Like, for the first time, somebody listened to my whole story. And he was like, okay. So he does the bioenergetic scan, and immediately, guess what shows? Lyme disease. The bacteria Borrelia pops up, and it's in almost every organ system in my body. I am riddled with Lyme disease, and I had no idea I even had it. And he said, have you ever had a bullseye rash? When I was 5. So it turns out that this entire saga of health problems really started from a teeny tiny tick when I was 5 years old, and we didn't treat it because we didn't know what it was, and it set off this storm in my body. So on the path to get well, I turned to herbs, and I did a whole protocol, and if you're interested, sometime I will share the whole protocol I followed. But herbs were a huge part of what I did. And as I worked with my naturopath and I detoxed and I changed my diet and I started using herbs like this beautiful lemon balm, some crazy things started happening. My joint pain not just got less, it disappeared. The swelling disappeared. I lost 90 pounds, most of the weight I had gained in all those years of illness. I started to feel like myself again mentally. When you're sick for so long, it takes a toll on you, like emotionally and mentally. And I started to feel like me again, like the me I had lost so many years ago. And so much of that is thanks to the plants that you see in my garden. So if you ever wonder, like, why would someone be so obsessed with growing, plants and vegetables and herbs that they would like quit their whole life to make it about this? Well, that's why. This saved my life. And lemon balm in particular has been my best friend on this journey. Lemon balm is a nervine herb, meaning it targets your nervous system. And your nervous system holds your fight or flight response. If you've been through something hard, whether it's childhood trauma or a lifetime of chronic illness, or in my case, both, then your nervous system is going to get all out of whack. And mine decided to hate me. And that's why I kept getting shingles. And so lemon balm calms the nervous system down. And it particularly works for shingles because it's antiviral. And the herpes virus that causes shingles and chickenpox and cold sores and all different things can be treated with lemon balm. Now, I'm not a doctor and this is not medical advice, but I'm just telling you my story. And what I found is weeks of prescriptions from the doctor would not get rid of that shingles rash or pain for me. But taking lemon balm for 24 to 48 hours will immediately get rid of it if it pops up again. And the good news is, since I treated the Lyme and I've embarked on this new lifestyle, I don't get shingles all the time anymore. The only time shingles starts to pop up for me is if I start to neglect taking care of myself and if I stop visiting my friends in the garden like lemon balm. And I'll quickly remember, oh no, I have not had lemon balm in a while, and I'll go refuel and then it'll go away and I'll be back on track. So lemon balm is an herb that I really recommend every gardener grow, whether you have Lyme disease or chronic illness or hormone problems or not. Lemon balm helps the nervous system, and we all have a nervous system, and we all deal with nervous system dysregulation just from life and stress. So lemon balm can bring you back to center. It can bring the stress levels down. It can help you with sleep. It can soothe digestion. And it's just a little happy plant, and it smells like lemons. It's got like this uplifting, like zesty lemon flavor and aroma. You can cook with lemon balm. I like to use it when I make bone broth, or if I make like chicken noodle soup or something like that, I'll throw it in. It's a great seasoning herb, but it's also medicinal. So I use it for teas. I use it in tinctures, even in an infused oil. We could make an infused oil with this, and I'll put it directly on that shingles rash if it pops up, and it can bring it down and kind of clear it up. So if your kids get chicken pox, lemon balm. If you're living in chronic stress, lemon balm. If you're feeling like your emotional health is not great, your mental health is not good, you're battling anxiety on the regular, you're having panic attacks, maybe you're battling with depression, lemon balm. This little plant is powerful, and it comes back year after year. Plant it once, you'll have it forever. Lemon balm is easy to grow too. It grows easily from seed, and it will spread everywhere. I started with one little lemon balm plant, and now I have about 12 of them all over the garden, where it just keeps spreading, and I divide it and I move it around. But you can never have too much of this one. So try growing some lemon balm, and I hope that my story, if nothing else, will inspire you to look at plants differently. I truly believe, after what I've been through, that God made every plant with a purpose. And we have everything we need for health and healing in our plants, but we've just got to learn to use them. And in the world of herbalism, people get really off track with this, and they start to worship the plants, and they start to worship what they can do, and they use it like this is some sort of a secret spell or formula. But no, this is just a plant that our good God made for us out of His love and kindness to help us survive this crazy thing called life. And when you look at it that way, herbs lead you closer to the Lord and they bring you to a posture of worship. Because I wouldn't have this plant if my kind God had not known in advance that I was going to struggle and I was going to need that help. I was going to have shingles and no doctor was going to be able to help me, but He could help me. He could give me a little plant and the interest to explore it. And through that, He's healed me. So plants are powerful and they're healing, but truly it's not the plants, it's the one that made them. And that's what I want you to remember. So fall in love with herbs, but more importantly, fall in love with the God who gave them to us. Thanks for hanging out with me today and hearing a little bit more of my story and how I fell in love with herbs. But I want you to know I feel such a passion to start teaching this. I don't see a really good platform out there where herbalism is being taught from a Christian worldview, and it's so important and it's changed my life. So over the next weeks and months, I'm going to provide for you just a steady drip of videos. We're going to look at individual herbs that I'm growing, and I'm going to teach you how to use them. We're going to make teas, we're going to make tinctures, we're going to make salves, we're going to do it all. And as we move into fall and I start harvesting all the beautiful herbs in this garden, I'm going to bring you with me and we're going to learn this together. So if you're interested in herbalism, stick around. Make sure you subscribe and you follow along on this journey as we learn together.